You were a high performer. It was like everything you touched turned to gold. So they promoted you. But now you're burned out and you feel like you're ready to throw in the towel. You feel like you're constantly struggling to keep your head above water. You're second guessing yourself. And maybe you've even quietly wondered, am I actually cut out for leadership? But failure is not in your vocabulary. So you work harder. And the harder you work, the more burned out you feel. So let's talk about why burnout hits you so fast. The truth is, you were thrown into the deep end without anyone teaching you how to lead. I'm Tia A. Williams. I was an executive for a 100-person globally remote team, and I coach experts who have transitioned into leadership roles but are finding it hard to adapt. Now, one of the fastest paths to burnout is this first one, trying to stay the expert. Because you were great at your job, you feel like you can do it better faster. So you jump in and do the things that you know and love first. While those newer leadership tasks are quietly piling up on your desk, you just made yourself the bottleneck. And then there's the second reason, delegation. Now, if you're like most people, nobody actually taught you how to delegate, which means you're doing the work yourself, or you're throwing it over the wall at your team, or you're hovering and micromanaging, stressing your team out. Now, the third one is what I call the yes trap. It's really hard to say no to your boss. You don't want to look like you can't handle it, right? So that work, it keeps piling up. And because you care so much about your team, you try to protect them. You take on the extra load yourself so that they don't burn out. But now you're working nights and weekends, and your family is starting to notice that when you're home, you're not really there. The key to solving for this is learning how to manage the workload and using data to validate that your team is at max capacity and adjust priorities. Fourth, it's all about how you see the work. When everything feels urgent, it's like everything's on fire. I had a client who once told me everything is priority number one. But if everything is number one, that means that nothing is number one. The key to prioritizing is you need a system to track what your team can actually handle. You can't really have those hard conversations about limits, so you just take the hit and you end up burnt out, overworked, and overwhelmed. Now, if you're enjoying my leadership content, hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest leadership as a craft content. And then there is what I call the big one. You're leading on instinct. You're smart, you care, and you're winging it. You're trying to figure it out as you go. And you probably are afraid to ask for help because you think leaders are just supposed to know this stuff. But what worked for you as an expert does not work for you the same way now that you're a leader. And when it doesn't work, you feel like maybe you aren't good enough. What you're experiencing isn't failure. It's a skills gap. And that burnout that you feel, it's not the actual problem. It's a symptom. You were never taught skills like proper delegation or workload management, and you're overcompensating. That's why you're tired, not because you aren't capable. The aha moment here is that you invested in yourself to master your craft. You studied, maybe you even took classes, and you became the expert. Why should leadership be any different? Leaders are built, not born. And if you're ready to build your leadership skills, watch this next video for more ways to smooth your transition from expert to high-performing leader.